Hang in there, Hope. Snow! Snow, don't just stand there!
Steel Guard! Come on, show me what you got!
Wanna lend a hand here?
Don't worry, Light, I can take him. Watch this. Steel Guard!
Never mind.
All right, great teamwork.
Like you did anything.
Great job, guys. Let's keep it up. Now we can move on to bigger and better targets like... Well, hello, handsome. Starting with this one. Let's go!
Snow, we don't have time for this.
Hey, heroes never back down.
What have you gotten us into?
Easy, sis. Just stay calm, follow my lead. Everything's under control.
Right.
Steel Guard!
I don't have time for this.
Oh, that didn't go as planned.
You think? Great job, Snow. Game over.
Game over. It's not really game over. You can always just kind of restart. You press start or you press X, depending on which one you're going. I mean, did you see the Steel Guard?
You know what?
Steel Guard was pretty cool.
I've had enough of your Steel Guard.
Yeah, it was awesome. The Steel Guard was fantastic.
Nobody likes Steel Guard.
I love Steel Guard.
I kind of enjoyed it. People here this evening to mark this auspicious moment and to join you in discussing the impact that Final Fantasy has had on the video game industry and beyond. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President of Cerny Games and the AIS Hall of Fame inductee. His credits include Marble Madness, Crash Bandicoot, Resistance 2, titles perhaps you have heard of. Please welcome Mark Cerny to the stage.
Thanks for having me.
Mark, thank you. Please be seated right there. And it was good that you didn't take your parietal lobe off on that amplifier hanging down there. We should make sure everyone doesn't hit their... That would be really tragic. Good YouTube footage, though. Also, legendary game designer for games such as The Seventh Guest and Halo Wars, Mr. Graham Devine is here as well.
Thank you.
Hello. Please have a seat next to Mark. The founder and CEO of gas-powered games and the brain behind series like Dungeon Siege and Supreme Commander, Mr. Chris Taylor is here.
Hey. Great, thank you.
Hello, please have a seat. The CEO of Obsidian Entertainment with hit titles Neverwinter Nights 2 and the Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, Fergus Urquhart is here as well. Fergus, nice to see you. Good. And finally, noted as probably one of the most influential women in all of gaming, best known for being the principal engine programmer for Microsoft's Halo team, Corinne Yu is here as well. Hi, Corinne. Thank you. Have a seat. All right, please have another hand for the panel. A huge, explosive.
Oh, thank you. I'll give you a hand later.
So, with over 92 million units sold to date, I mean, there's no question that Final Fantasy series has had an enormous economic impact, a commercial success. But I think what I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight with you guys was the sort of creative impact that it had and how it, how it changed people's way of thinking what a game could be and what the gaming experience could be. So, if you guys want to talk about your experience of maybe the first time you saw the Final Fantasy franchise.
I remember when Final Fantasy VII first came out, and it was on the PlayStation 1. I was doing 7th Guest or 11th Hour at the time. And I'm like, doing FMV on CD-ROM, and everyone's like, "Ooh, that's not the future, that's not the future." And then this game comes out with this fabulous FMV, way better than the production value I put in the 7th Guest, and I'm like, holy cow, there's the future. And it was one of those games that really showed to me that story is possible to add into games. And I was so excited to play through that game because it was the first time that a story really affected me in a game.
Right.
And it was one of the first the games that really had a story that was deep and the world meant something. I mean, the world had sports games, the world had drama, the world had people with problems. You just didn't see that in any game up until that point, and that was huge.
Yeah, Chris, what was your experience?
I'd say to people, I want to get my, people to cry.
Do you want me to make the people in the back stop talking?
And no, it's fine.
You sure?
We can talk right over top.
Not a rock concert, people.
And someone would say to me, "Oh, I already cried in Final Fantasy VII."
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
No, it's the same. It's the same exact thing with when we play the Final Fantasies. I think it's like we always look at them and go, because it's what we want to be able to make.
Right.
And it's just amazing to go out there because we're always looking, okay, we can do this, we can't do that with the games that we make. And then you see Final Fantasy, and you're like, that is what it's the thing we look at as that's where we want to go. That's what we want to do.
Right. Mr. Toriyama, what do you say?
ファイナルファンタジー13は、ファイナルファンタジー7よりももっとストーリードリブンで、人間ドラマを大事にしてきっと皆さん泣けると思います。
Fantasy XIII is even more story-driven than Final Fantasy VII was, so I think that a lot of people will be able to get into the story.
Well, that's really where, I mean, for me, as a gamer, that's really kind of what I look for. I mean, like, I want to get into characters the same way I would if I were seeing a movie or reading a book. It's not just about beating the crap out of people anymore. Like, you want to get invested in these characters. I mean, Mark, with your company, like, what do you?
Well, I just want to say about getting going with the series, just to reset, is in 1977, I was playing a lot of paper RPGs with my brother. I was 13, he was 14.
D&D?
Yeah, D&D, Art of Grimoire, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And we had this idea, this crazy idea that computers could make RPGs better. And so we started to try to make our own 3D action combat RPG on basically an overgrown oscilloscope we found at the university with punched cards. 20 years later, Final Fantasy VII comes out. I see my brother's like, dude, you know that game we were trying to make? Somebody finally did it. So thank you very, very much for that.
I think the storytelling is very strong, but one thing that I think how the storytelling was executed well in the Best of Final Fantasy series is that it really has allowed the player to kind of customize their experience of playing a game. That is kind of like, I'm a programmer and I don't believe in a deterministic path, because the whole point of building a software is for it to respond to different stimuli. And so I really like that Final Fantasy at its best is one of those few games where you are the character that you develop in a certain way, that you decide which stats to improve, in what order you invest in that. And nowadays we have more and more games that are that way, but Final Fantasy was one of the few games that successfully allowed that sort of customization and immersion that really helps drive the success of the storytelling. So to me, that's very inspiring, and that's kind of the game I want to make, whether or not it is an RPG. I think things like that can be done on FPS. And in a totally different way that Final Fantasy series have impacted my whole life was just all those beautiful cinematics. And every time I see the cinematics, it's like, okay, how can I do that in real time? And really, there have been so many countless non-real-time cinematics of Final Fantasy that was so beautifully realized. It inspires people who do interactive 3D to try to just make that effect, how to make that work.
No, I think a lot of it at time is like when we're all, we've all been making games for a long time now, and a lot of it is that we all still play games, which is great. And I think sometimes you're kind of playing standard game X or standard game Y, and it's sort of the same thing that's sort of recycled over and over again.
Yeah.
But every time there's that the next Final Fantasy comes out, there are things that are very familiar with sort of some of the game systems and things like that. But then it still is that next thing. It's that next thing of like, now we got to go we're chasing it, which is great. I mean, from a game player in the end, for getting to be a game maker, it's just awesome to be able to have that experience.
So let's say 10, 15 years ago, what did you envision what gaming would be in 2010? I mean, is this what you saw, or is this beyond anything that you would have seen?
Final Fantasy XIII?
Yeah.
Well, I think, no, I mean,
I'm still trying to match stuff 10 years ago.
It just playing. I mean, I got a chance to play quite a bit of it a little while ago, and how it melds both the kind of rendered cinematics and the in-game cinematics now is just, I look at it and go, all right, they win.
Right.
And the amazing part of it is it really feels like you're playing the movie. And it's not a movie, because we don't want to make just movie games. We want to play games where you feel like you're actually invested and you're choosing things. And the way the graphics have really melded with the cutscenes is
as a young game, as someone,